Oh my goodness gracious me, what have we just seen at the Aviva? The final whistle has just gone. What an unbelievable climax. And then anticlimax, right at the final moment. Ireland have won 20 points to 13, but oh my word, what a contest that was. That was already better than any of the games last week. Fabulous effort by both teams. I am going to, as always, start talking about the game in detail at the 4 minute mark of this recording. So come and fast forward there if you want to, if you're on the replay, or go make yourself a cup of tea or get a beer, and we'll start talking about the game at the 4 minute mark. I'm going to be drinking this one, my favourite Bulgarian beer, Prinsko. So let me know in the comments where you are and what you're drinking. Players leaving the field now. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable, that game. Irish players, I'd say, potentially look a little bit relieved. Italy must feel like they've let a really good opportunity to get a result there go. They were right in this all the way through. Yeah, let me know in the comments what you're drinking, where are you, and we'll get into it at the 4 minute mark. Cheers. Also in the comments, give it a thumbs up as well while you're down there if you don't mind. It helps other people find it. And the more people we get here, the more fun we'll have. Also in the comments, let me know what what are the talking points, what are the things you want me to cover. Make sure I don't miss anything. I've got my notes here as always, but let's make sure we don't miss anything. Goodness me, I feel a little bit exhausted. That's only the first game of the day. Calcutta Cup to come later, and that's going to be absolutely crazy as well, I'm sure. Yeah, let me know where you watched this game from. Italian players walking off, sharing a joke there. The front rowers, maybe they were laughing about some of those scrums in that game today. Holy moly, me oh my, they were some big Italian scrums. What a weapon that is for the Italians at the moment. Oh, I'm glad we got a proper contest there. We didn't get that in 2 of the 3 games last week, so that was a proper contest. Fought all the way to the death. Real drama. Love it. That is Six Nations rugby, exactly as we like it. And just a word for Holly Davison, first female referee in a Six Nations game. Congratulations to her. That's another glass ceiling smash. So brilliant. And we'll get into some of the details. But overall, I thought she had a really good game. Really solid, super composed. Took her time when it was needed. Was just made the right calls. Very clear with her communications. As always with these things, the first time anybody does anything, there can be nerves. It can be difficult for various reasons. I thought she had a really good, solid game. And it looks like Robert Balakoon has been given player of the match. I'm not sure I'd have picked that myself, but there we go. Okay, right, let's get into it. This game started off at a bit of a pace, and it's fair to say the Italians were up for it. I questioned whether they would be able to back up what they did last week in terms of the effort and physicality, especially in the forwards. I think Simone Ferrari epitomised or made me realise exactly what the Italians were up to with a massive hit on Gary Ringrose, smacked him back into James Lowe's legs as well. Ringrose getting battered around like a pinball. Sheehan, this was an interesting moment. Back to the Lions. Second test, I think it was. Tap penalty, dive on the floor. Tap penalty, dive on the floor. Tap penalty, stay a little bit higher and get over those tacklers that are really low. Well, the Italian tacklers didn't go all that low for this one, and I can see why he might have thought they would, especially with Nicotera. in there. He loves headbutting ankles. But Dan Sheehan, and this is a really tough thing to officiate, I think, but it comes down to this. Do you think the player was more diving to score a try or jumping to avoid a tackle? And that is basically what this decision comes down to, the referee. Holly Davidson decided that Sheehan was jumping to avoid a tackle, and it has to be said, on the way it played out, you cannot disagree with it at all. Sheehan was actually caught and driven backwards, which, by the way, when this came about in the Australian series, the Lions test, people were saying, "Oh, people will be doing this all the time," and I was like, "They won't, because it's not very effective. When you get your feet off the ground, you've got no traction, you're not going to get anywhere." Sheehan got absolutely nailed, and that's why players don't typically do it. That's why the trip in the Lions series was so effective, was because of all that setup over the previous games as well. It wasn't even just that game. I think just dive into the floor, basically, eventually. So we'll probably never see that again. Or if we do, it'll be a long way off because it's just not effective. Okay, so that was that. It was a fun moment for me anyway. Luigi Liner got up to take a great cross kick for the Italians, up one-handed and regathered it. It was fantastic work by him. He has had some fantastic moments in the air this Six Nations tournament, but he couldn't repeat it a few minutes later when he was adjudicated to be deliberately knocking the ball on. Now, this is the one, I think, where it feels, this is like really borderline for me, where it feels kind of hard because he's clearly trying to catch the ball, but then again, it comes down to the referee to adjudicate. Was he ever realistically going to get the ball back from the cross kick? He did almost exactly the same thing. He did get it back, but from this one, he didn't, and he wasn't really close to regathering it, let's be honest. He tapped it up and knocked it forwards, and it wasn't like it was just on the end of his fingertips when he tried to catch it. So I agree with the referee. Knock on, and deliberate knock on, and therefore penalty. And it was absolutely a line break opportunity. So it has to be a yellow card. It feels harsh, but that law is there to stop people just batting the ball out of the air. It's there to encourage attacking rugby. So I am absolutely okay with it. And no, I do believe Lyon was trying to catch the ball. Okay, on to the next bit. And holy moly, this is where the Italian scrum started to show its power. And didn't they ever show their power today? Don't forget, this Irish scrum didn't buckle an inch last week against the French, those massive Frenchmen. And today, I would say it buckled. I'd say it buckled a heck of a lot. The first thing here on 14 minutes I'm going to highlight, though, is you've got to be smart with when you do this, because the Italians, sorry, it was an Irish scrum, just inside their own half, I think, on the far touchline. So the Italians' left-hand touchline, and Fichetti, Luce, had a big scrum. And what all that did was get his own back row out of the game, advantage to Ireland. They played off that and made really good ground up through player of the match, actually, Robert Balakoon, as he went through the middle. And so, a good scrum by the Italians, or by one of the Italians, but it gave Ireland the advantage. So you've got to be smart when you do that. Ireland, though, were playing a lot, I'd say. All this kind of layered attack that we've been used to seeing from them in maybe 18 months ago and before, it seemed like it returned. It wasn't really super fast flowing, it wasn't super accurate, it wasn't really close to the line, but it was causing Italy some problems. And Ireland looked well organised and well oiled for a lot of this time. The Italians were pushing up hard in defence, they were sort of hard and high, but Ireland was getting around the outside on a regular basis, just pulling the ball back and getting around the outside of the Italians. So they were finding joy, but the Italians having pushed them that high up the pitch, Ireland weren't making a huge amount of ground from it either. So it was a really interesting battle, the Irish attack against the Italian defence during the opening phases. And this multi-phase continued, and the Irish eventually found a half gap. Zuliani didn't quite make his tackle stick on McCloskey. Marin had come up to try and close Osborne down, who was in the ball out the back. So McCloskey rolled, got the ball off the floor to Osborne, and then come round past Marin for 5-0. And it looked, Ireland were on top at this point. Italy looked dangerous at times. They had their moments. They definitely had their moments. And whenever they moved the ball, they looked sharp and active. But Ireland probably had the bulk of the game. but the Italians got a penalty soon afterwards for a line-up being dragged down. This one was really touch and go, but you do have to look after the player in the air, I think, so it's hard to disagree with it. That was kicked for 5-3. Yeah, 5-3. That conversion, that score was almost under the post. Pendergast somehow snap hooked it left. Really bad miss kick back. Really terrible. Yeah. Um, yeah, so for Ireland were playing decent rhythm shape. A couple of things around the kicking though. Casey wasn't having a particularly good day at this point with his kicking. James Lowe's boot was being used a lot now, and I think it's fair to say you can see that familiar to see James Lowe kicking the ball. It felt like a real part of Ireland's identity, so it was good to see that back and it was useful for them. McCarthy at this point of the game has probably done more in these 20 minutes than the entirety of the last match. And Italy were defending pretty well. And they were looking sharp on the counter. So I was really excited about the game. At this point, Hanny, the Italian fullback, who had a really good game throughout, he looks like he bulked up a little bit. He looks more powerful than I remember from previous years. He chipped over and regathered, got tackled, and he tried to get a pathway to Lamoureux, and it was just too far in front of him. Lamoureux might have been able to catch it, but if he had done, he'd have probably have to go off his feet and slide it anyway. So it looked like a chance, but didn't quite work out for them. But the Italians were really going after the Irish scrum, really going after it, double shunts. And there was one where it was an Irish scrum. The Italians pushed really hard and it collapsed. And Holly Davidson was just about to blow for it. Well, she moved her whistle towards her lips, but then the ball came out and she was like, right, okay, we'll just play that away, which is fine for me, fine. Let's keep the ball moving unless it's an absolute that's denied a team an advantage. Then let's crack on. So all good with that one. It was a big hit by Lorenzo Canoni on McCloskey. It was one of those where he hit the ball, and then like if you're carrying it, then you get massive force and it bounces you back, which is a great one. Panny landed on his face shortly afterwards, following an aerial contest with Ringrose. And again, we're seeing more of these. And the referees, I think, they're so tough to judge these things. I think they're really tough to judge. They go so fast. And this was judged as just a fair contest. And I'm inclined to agree. Lamoureux had a little bit of a question, which I think he's got all rights to do. But I think it was a fair contest. Panny got up and carried on. So all good with that regards. But the Italian attack was looking pretty fluid. And Menoncello crashed over Prendergast. And then Lorenzo Canoni on the left flank crashed over Casey, who wheeled away holding his face. And for a moment, like my initial reaction was, has he elbowed him in the face there? Like that was my initial thing. Obviously, it was right over the far side of the pitch, so you can't really see initial thing. But then they brought it back, and yeah, Canoni did have an arm up, but it was head contact. And again, one of these, it feels a little bit tough on Casey, maybe, but the law's there for a reason, and he's got to just try and get lower. You know, he's got to try and or get out of the way, but. Casey certainly was the worst off for that one, shown later on with like 2 nose plugs and blood all over his face when he was sat on the bench because he got penalised and yellow card for that one. So Italy with a really good opportunity here, and they took it. The catch and drive, and Nicotera drove over for 10-5, conversion kicked. Italy in the lead. Now, there's a really interesting point straight afterwards because the game swings with momentum and little moments can be big moments. And it looked like Ireland got a big moment because they won the kickoff back immediately, but Loughman dropped it. Loughman dropped it immediately. And that just allowed Italy to settle back into their lead, spend time in front on the scoreboard without being under pressure in Air 22. It makes a massive difference. Not only that, it gave Italy a scrum. And as I've been saying already, Italy's scrum is going absolute gangbusters at the moment. This was the one where Sheehan went absolutely crazy at Ferrari for carrying on driving after the scrum had collapsed. And I don't blame him. You don't see this anymore. There's kind of a gentleman's agreement in the front row. Once it goes down, all power comes off. Everybody just goes knees on the floor, knees and nose. That's a safe position. And nothing happens. Ferrari clearly was absolutely riled up, continued driving after this scrum had collapsed and the whistle had gone. And I think, like I said, Sheehan was rightfully pretty angry. I don't think I've ever seen him go after a player like that before, Dan Sheehan. He's normally very calm and controlled. Like I say, I don't blame him. Casey Ricard, yellow card, remained a yellow card, and that was when his face came up on the screen with 2 nose plugs. Ringrose, with Casey off though, Ringrose went in to be scrum half for one scrum, and this was an absolute monster from the Italians. Huge scrum, absolutely huge scrum, which was penalised. Garbisi kicked it to 5 meters out. The line-out drive failed, and then McCloskey nicked it off Marin. Marin tried to go in, but he got caught a little high, so then tried to rip the ball up to release it, and McCloskey just, I love that. Thank you, son. And that led to half-time. But after the half-time whistle went, one of the Irish players, Mr. James Ryan, was an absolute idiot, and I want this removed from our game. He just screamed in one of the Italian players' faces, just like, ha ha, we got the ball kind of stuff. It's absolute garbage. There was a Springbok penalised for it last year. It was against Ireland as well. I don't want to see any teams doing this. It's idiocy. It's just unsportsmanlike, and it's dumb. So, James Ryan, I'm calling you out on that one. That is, just get it out of the game. Absolutely hate it. Okay, story of the first half, though, was the fact that Ireland had the majority of the ball, and they were pretty efficient with it. Well, sorry, they went through a lot of phases, causing the Italians to tackle 90 times compared to the Irish, only 40 tackles late in that first half anyway. Italy soaked up a whole lot of pressure, but they looked sharp out of the back of shape, this dominant scrum. And they were running back plenty of kicks. So when Ireland kicked the ball to them, Pani in particular, but Ioane as well, and Liner every now and again, they were running the ball back. So that tells me a couple of things. It says that the Irish kicking wasn't accurate enough. If the Italians are getting opportunities to run back like that, then the kicking was not accurate enough. But the Irish did have decent periods of phase play. It wasn't always that incisive, but they did all right. But they did also drop off the odd tackle as well when the Italians had the ball. My thoughts at halftime was that Ireland needed to either keep hold of the ball more or improve their kicking accuracy, or preferably both, to be honest. They probably needed to do both. Halftime, big Ty Furlong onto the pitch to try and sort out this Irish scrum. Ireland got a penalty almost immediately, kicked to the corner. It was a short line out to Loughman at the front. And I immediately thought, have they missed an opportunity there? Because as soon as you do that, it means you can't go for the catch and drive, or it's much harder to do anyway. It mattered not, because the Irish drove and eventually Conan got over 4-10-10, and the conversion was missed from almost the exact same spot where the penalty was given, when I was thinking maybe they should kick the 3 and just get the scoreboard ticking over. Well, they kicked the corner, got 5, and then, like I say, missed the conversion anyway. So 10 are all. But as I mentioned, Furlong on to sort the scrum out. That didn't happen. A huge scrum shortly after by the Italians. Ferrari absolutely launching Sheehan out of the top of it. This is how I've been in that situation. It is not fun. It is not fun whatsoever. Nobody likes that. And it's, well, Ferrari would have liked it, excuse me. But for poor Sheehan and the Italians, that is, nasty. Yeah, and the Italians tried, what was this bit? A snap line out to Canoni. Oh, yeah, this is right. So Nicola Canoni is bit of a lumpy second row. He's not the quickest in the air, and the Italians tried like a reaction ball to him at the front to get up fast. And he's up against Izuchukwu, who's much quicker at that, frankly. And Izuchukwu got up in front and won that line-out ball. The throw was probably a bit low as well. That didn't happen. But the Italians did get the ball back, and Marin almost got a chicken wing offload away to Pani down the left-hand side. He tried to run through Osborne. Remember what I was saying about Pani looking like bulkier? And he did, to be fair. He knocked Osborne out of the way, but there was enough contact there to get Pani into touch. 51 minutes, there was a brilliant turnover by Doris, but Ty Furlong didn't quite look on it, to be honest. He looked like he'd been out for a little while. Furlong dithered at the back of the ruck for 1, 2, 3, until he got absolutely smoked by Zambonin. Italy were on top at this point, though. they were flying. They were really flying at this point, and they looked like their phase play was sharp. All the passes were in front of players, running onto the ball. All the Ireland tackles were like scrag tackles, just making them. And Menoncello went between Conan and Ringrose, and it was a brilliant pass to Liner for the try. No, the commentators mentioned it immediately. Like, is that a forward pass? I, on first look, glance, thought that's not a forward pass. But they went back and checked it. Holly Davidson deferred to the TMO, and it looked like he was really struggling to make a decision. I've got to be honest, it really looked like he wasn't 100% sure, but Holly Davidson used the phrase, is that a clear and obvious forward pass? And the TMO said yes. And is there to make a decision. These things are really tough. It's very, very difficult. But I personally disagree. I'd love to hear your comments about that as well, though. Of course, respecting the officials at all times. Just because we disagree with them, like, we're not going to agree with every decision. That's fine. It's a really tough thing to do. But it was tough for the Italians because, like I say, they were flowing, they were flying at that point, and it felt like they'd earned that try. It felt like they deserved it as well. So very disappointing for them. But there we go. Prendergast, with one of the very last things he would do, put up an incredible spiral bomb from a free kick, I think it was, from the scrum. And Italy were all over the place, and this can happen from spiral bombs. No shade on them whatsoever. But Lamoureux flicked the ball back when it was up in the air, which gave Ireland the ball, but he immediately made up for it by winning a turnover a couple of phases later. Zuliani literally took the ball off Loftman at one point. There was some wild play. It was all over the place, and I'm pretty calm when I watch the game mostly, but I was getting quite agitated at this point because it was so much fun. Menoncello, I love Menoncello. He's one of my favourite players, and you rarely see him make errors, but he made a few today. There was a 3-on-2 chance on the right-hand side, and he tried to beat the first player and then offload. It just didn't work. And then Prendergast was taken off for Crowley, so no two playmakers this time for Ireland. But the Irish attack suddenly looked a lot more slick. It really did. There was a penalty advantage, Ferrari not rolling away. McCloskey did an American football style pass to Balakoon, player of the match, Balakoon. I'm starting to see maybe why he was player of the match now. He slipped past Pani for the try in 17-10. There was a really deep kick by Ireland, finding a lot of grass, which they didn't do a lot of in the first half. And Italy were playing with fire, lots of hot potato stuff, but they did eventually get into touch. But the Irish had massive momentum. They got a penalty, which they kicked for 20 points to 10, and that felt like a decisive lead at that point. It really did. But then Ireland ran from deep from the following kickoff. Osborne got held up, resulting in an Italian scrum, and you could hear on the ref mic Jack Conan asking Crowley, "What are we doing? What are we doing?" And rightly so. You're 20-10 up, who scrambled around all game, struggling for confidence, the Irish overall. Just clear your lines, get it back up the other end of the pitch. And this was the biggest scrum of the game. Spagnolo absolutely launching Furlong up to the stratosphere. They kicked that penalty for 20 points to 13, and they were right back in the game now. Ireland lost the line out, but Rutzer knocked it on in really good phase play. It looked like they could have gone out the back behind Rutzer, and I'm guessing that was what he was thinking as well. They hit him on the short line, and he knocked it on. And Jamieson Gibson-Park did a really good thing that some of the other Irish players should have been doing, is focus on territory. He hit a lovely rolling sort of grubber kick to 5 metres out. Italy tried to play from deep, but realised that they weren't getting anywhere. Up and under from Garbisi to the right-hand touchline. Ireland, again, there's a bit of hot potato in this game today. They were guilty of it. Odogwu, who was on, was the beneficiary, and suddenly Ireland were defending for their lives. But they did it well. They defended the 22 like it was their goal line, and Italy were running out of steam. So they went to the air again, but the Irish won it. And again, Gibson-Park did a great job of clearing it. Doris won a penalty, breakdown. That was kicked into the 22. Doris gave away a penalty at a breakdown, wide on the left. I think he went off his feet and then tried to play the ball. The Italians got it just into the 22, and they went for the chip play. First up, off the back, Garbisi chipping it over, and a good bounce, and Menoncello would have been in, but he knocked it on under the sticks. That was a big chance, but an Ireland scrum, and with the way the scrum had been going, I was thinking this could be a massive moment. What a thing this would be. but the Irish locked it out. Fair play to them and got the ball cleared. But they put more pressure on themselves again. Italy attacked. The dog blue got penalised for hands in the ruck. There was quite a funny moment then because Garbisi tried to kick it into touch and it was a horrible strike, dead duck of a ball, but it bounced in front of Balogun, who was off the pitch, preparing to run on and try and save it. Hit Balogun and went into touch 6 meters out. Italy played off the back of that lineup. They didn't go for the catch and drive, which surprised me after succeeding with that in the first half. There we go. They went for the play, and eventually Ireland just defended, and they got knocked back. And eventually Ioane tried to throw a ball over the top, which Lowe intercepted, nearly went the length himself, ended up with a penalty to the Irish, kicked to the corner, trying to get the bonus point, and Crowley kicked it dead. That was the end of the game. So no massive finale, although that last 7-8 minutes was absolutely all over the place, and I loved it. I'm gonna get off this one now because the England game's going to be up. Scotland-England game's going to be up soon. Thank you for your comments. Absolutely flying through this. There was so much to talk about. Let's get some of these on screen though. Don't think Italy will take more positives out of this game in defeat than Ireland in victory. Quite possibly. Yeah, quite possibly. One Irish positive though. Got to stop JGP. I thought Gibson Park was great when he came on. Yeah. Here's another one now from Vincenzo. Gutted but very proud Italian. Absolutely, 100% agree. What else have we got here? Oh, just some nice little chat between some Irish and Italian fans. Love that. Great work. Fantastic work, guys. Oh, still another amazing game to do and one tomorrow. Okay, I'm going to go and get the game ready for Scotland versus England. That is going to be crazy. I am going to be speaking to, who am I speaking to about this game? Elko, of course. Elko tomorrow morning. So we'll have our match report ready for tomorrow, probably around late morning, lunchtime, something like that. Look out for that in your feed. Elko, I'm sure, will have lots of opinions on lots of things that have happened today. I'm sure he'll be very excited. And I'm very relieved as well to get this win. Dunk, cheers. Thanks for watching. Much appreciated. If you can give this video a thumbs up before you go, that'll help other people find it later on the replay. As always, much appreciated. Yeah. Come back, though. Come back after this game. After Scotland-England, I'll be doing another live. And if there's as much to talk about in that game as there has been in this one, I'll be a happy, happy man. Enjoy your rugby. Peace.